All right, we'll go ahead and call this regular meeting of the USD 431 School Board to order. Roll call, everyone's present except Jessica and Julie. And then number 3, adoption of the agenda. There are no changes or modifications, right?
Shouldn't be.
Okay, I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second motion.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Okay, item 4, opportunity for visitors. I don't see any. You're here for something else.
I'm just listening.
You're just a spectator.
Item 5, the consent agenda. So before you have the minutes from the 6-2 regular meeting, the 6-9 special meeting, the 6-25 special meeting, cash summary report, check summary, and activities account summary. If anybody has any questions on any of that.
On the 2 title accounts that are still showing negative ending balances, are we still waiting for reimbursements on those? Or are those ones that we may not receive?
They are federal funds,
right.
So they can be negative. I'd have to ask Taylor why they're still negative. I don't think she's not quite done closing out the year yet.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Passes 5-0.
Tracy, you seconded, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, item 6, old business.
Okay, so most of you are aware I'm kind of coming into this kind of right at the tail end, but I was here at the special board meeting where they did discuss it, and they rescinded the motion to have the football team pay for that out of their account. That was information that was collected by Mr. Crowdis before he left in regards to, I believe, KSD. I know KSD and our local attorneys both indicated that they would not recommend doing that anyway, but I believe they indicated KSD would not think that would be permissible. So you guys have circled back to now the original conversation. You still have another motion that's on the table that you've already previously addressed of, do you want to allow for the 6th coach? In the meantime, since I got here last week, Joel and I have spoken a little bit about it, and I have reached out to the state as well to gather information from them in regards to the possibility, would it be okay if football paid for regular expense by the district, particularly the helmet conditioning, I believe is what we discussed, if that would be permissible or acceptable to offset the funds it would take to pay for the coach. I did reach out to the attorneys, and I also reached out to KSDE. Both of them, neither one of them said you can't do that. Both of them said it wouldn't be advisable given the fact that that is a normal district expense. You probably don't want to start having clubs pay for what is normal, what you guys have done usually. So they would not make that recommendation, but neither one of them told me it can't be done. Any questions?
So really the long and short of it is no longer budget neutral. It would have to come out of board monies to pay for that 6th coach. So we would just need to decide as a board if we wanted to continue and allow the 6th coach and we pay for it, or we rescind the motion.
I think the challenge certainly is that, obviously you made that original decision kind of going down that road with the thought of it being budget neutral. I mean, challenge being, the football program doesn't necessarily want or is asked for the board to pay for it. They fully intended to pay for it themselves. And that's what they want to do, and that was what the agreement would be. So obviously this kind of causes this to be a little more complex than originally thought. I certainly think we can't be the only district that's been in this position. I would be really curious to know. I mean, certainly this has come up before for others. I mean, it feels like there's got to be some sort of avenue to be creative with it. I mean, I know the helmet reconditioning maybe not being advisable, but if that's an avenue that we could explore, I mean, even though if it's not technically quote unquote advisable, it seems like I'd heard that this has been done by other districts. I think even in our league, there at least is an example of another team doing that, is what I had gathered, but not sure if that's, I don't know how everyone else is feeling. I don't necessarily feel comfortable backtracking on the sixth coach as a whole, since we've started down that path and going back on it. But again, I know it's complicated because of the funding aspect. So I don't know. I'm just starting the conversation. I don't know if anyone else has any input, but I don't necessarily feel great about with our precedent initially being set and then kind of walking back a little bit. But even though the conversation has changed based on funding.
No, I agree with that. If they're, mentioning the football helmets being reconditioned, if there's just some other way we can find to fund it, I mean, I feel like that should be up for discussion. But again, I don't feel like we should rescind the vote for the sixth coach.
I think it also, I was thinking about this a lot, and I don't necessarily want it to be I think this also maybe presents an opportunity for a grander conversation, and I know this is probably something that's not something we're going to talk about right here and now, but, we're talking about football specifically in this instance. I mean, across the board, I think we probably have an opportunity to look at what is making sense for all of our programs too. Like I'm talking coaching wise too, because if you look in like negotiate agreement, making sure we're kind of aligned on some of those things for other programs too. I'm kind of thinking bigger scale here as well. I know this has been brought to us for football specifically. I just want to actually just throw that out there while we're in session, just thinking that we also probably want to evaluate that too, because I know that probably an underlying conversation, maybe just in the public too, is okay, if we're, what does this look like, Brad, and what are we doing for football, and then, what do we need to talk about otherwise? I don't want that to be the perception. And of course, initially it shouldn't be. If we're going to be not using district dollars was the original intent of this conversation for that additional coach. But I think that creatively we probably need to think of this and try to, if there's some way we can do this. And keeping in mind, this wasn't intended to be long term. I think the original was we're going to try this for a year and see what it looks like. But I know that sometimes when those things start, the ball starts rolling, it's tough to backwalk it too. But just trying to keep that at the forefront as well, as this is something kind of new ground a little bit, and I want to be sure we're thinking of that across the board as well. I know I'm kind of just talking and thinking out loud, but just some thoughts that had come to mind as I've been thinking about this quite a bit since we last discussed it.
I would be for it if it was just for the one season and see how everything turned out with, see if the sixth coach even made a difference. And if there's no difference, next year do away with it and go back to business as usual.
Again, I know it wasn't necessarily recommended, but that's one avenue that's been talked about is, the helmet reconditioning option. Going down that path for this year, does anyone have any other thoughts on that? I know if it wasn't the recommendation necessarily, but it's not explicitly something we can't do, but it still technically allows it to be budget neutral, which was our original intent. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Or are we just thinking, they've given advice, we don't want to do that? I don't know how everyone feels.
I mean, I know you mentioned one school district. I'd be interested to see if there are other ones as well, that might pay for the reconditioning as well.
Also throw out, I know we're missing a couple board members too, and this is a big conversation, so I wanted to be, but again, I don't like just kicking cans down the road and not taking action when we need to. So just I know that's kind of the position we're in as well.
Their gear should come first before another coach, though.
I'm just
Well,
concerned if we,
obviously their safety is important. So my question would be, since it was brought up during this previous discussion, that if the football money was to be used, it has to be for the kids. Do they have to get input from those kids, the football players, as to, are they okay with them using that football money to recondition the helmets?
So it's like, is that how far we have to go?
Well,
I
that
mean-
was my understanding, is that the money is for them. So even if we wanted to allow them to pay for a coach, before we were told that the kids would all have to be in agreement with that as well. So
would
I
they
mean,
have to
would
have a
they
vote
have
then?
to? Well, that's what I'm wondering. Would they have to put their input in? I mean, I don't know.
I guess my question there would be, and I'm getting you here in just a second, Joel, because you're going to probably be able to answer this question, is that having coached before and been in another district, I don't know that kids on a team vote for every single expenditure spent out of their account. That would be somewhat uncommon.
We've never done that.
Yeah, as an FFA sponsor, a basketball coach, we didn't do that every single time. I mean, there might have been something that we brought to the membership or to the group to discuss, is that something we wanted to do? But to take that back to them to see if that's what they want to pay for, I think that would be an uncommon practice. Would you agree?
Yes.
But I think
I
it
agree.
depends on where that money comes from, because they specifically said if it's fundraised money, that needs to be used for the kids. That's why they fundraise. That's what they do that for. So, I mean, how do you determine what money is the football programs that's not fundraised money that was collected? You know what I mean? So I don't know.
You'd have to keep a subledger of,
Yeah.
full
So,
amount.
I mean, that's just one of the questions I have is,
And I agree, that's what KSD and KSB attorneys both brought up, were that as paying for football helmet reconditioning, was that what the fundraiser was for? We all know that answer's no. I mean, they weren't intending that to begin with. I'm just simply stating that to take something to the football players or volleyball players or cross country or FCCLA and ask them to vote on the things that they're spending money on
right.
isn't a typical practice.
That's perfectly, yeah, that's taking it to the extreme, but of
It
course
is.
it's in there.
That's what we're here for.
So that basically is what it comes down to. My view, you guys know, has not changed. I feel like it's a numbers thing, and I worry about what the precedent is that we would be setting by allowing it. But again, as a board, if the way to go ahead and approve paying for the coach out of our monies, then that's what happens. Otherwise, we need to rescind it and not allow a sixth coach.
I'm assuming that sixth coach has already put in work. I mean, would we be responsible if we did rescind it for, pay that?
Yeah, I couldn't
That
tell you if
coach
I've been
and over the
coaching
summer.
Well, if they're
or
not hired on, I don't see why.
My guess is if they've done anything, it's been very minimal, just a conversation with the coaching staff. I don't think there's any compensation that would be necessary.
They don't get paid per camp anyway, like as far as like their contract, how they're contracted.
But it is also my understanding that if we do go through with the sixth coach, it may end up leaving a position open at the middle school.
It's correct, but I believe there's somebody already that would be interested in the middle school, so I think it would just be boom, boom,
Boom,
and it would
boom.
be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody want to entertain a motion?
I would just request that it has specifics as to like general or like, I mean, just for Taylor and I, from our side of things, when we're gonna like for audits or whatever that we have to deal with, like if you guys are making the motion to pass it, like I would just prefer it if the district's paying for it. Like, are we gonna do it at a general? Like, that's where our supplementals come out of now.
I was
Is
gonna say,
general.
that's typically where it
Yeah.
comes from, anyway, right?
But we wouldn't be, so like the June 25th meeting, we voted to rescind the pay out of the football activities fund. So we wouldn't have to make a motion for the coach. We've already done that.
Correct.
Right.
You
So you have to make
you've
a
already
motion on-
approved that.
Yeah.
If nobody
So I'm
makes a
just making
motion to
sure we're all,
rescind,
yeah.
it's a sixth coach being
Mhm.
paid for by the district.
And you just mean though, just knowing the information, like not making a motion though to,
No, I'm just saying like where
Okay.
we're gonna pay it out of.
Okay.
Sorry if I didn't
Just-
word that
no.
right.
just making sure we're all on
And
the
if
same
it's
page.
just gonna be on a year to year, it needs to probably specify if it's just for 1 year.
And if-
Out of the
And maybe
general
it doesn't
fund.
need to specify since it's just like a coaching position and we would just pay it out of what we typically pay it out of. Like this whole situation, it just has,
It's just, we have to know where it's coming from.
yes.
Okay.
We might just put in there for year to year in the wording.
Yeah.
That way it doesn't roll
Okay.
over.
Anybody gonna make a motion?
No.
No motions. So, how do I do that? Do I just have to say, like, make a motion to not approve paying for a sixth coach out of the general fund?
I mean, there has to be a motion telling us how to pay them if we're gonna have a
Oh,
coach.
I thought we just
We
said,
need to
we just
know.
said-
yeah, I thought we just said we didn't have to.
Right now, you guys have approved a sixth coach.
Right, we have to make a motion on
So-
how we're going to pay for it. That's what we need. We've
Do we-
already approved the coach, but now we have to approve where it's gonna come from, because now you guys are saying the board's gonna pay for it. So she needs to know that,
It's,
Right.
maybe we don't. It's just messy now when we made the motion, then you had the motion to pay it out of activity and then it was rescinded. So I just feel like since that step was made, do we need another motion saying where we're gonna pay that coach out of or do we not?
Well, every other time we hire a coach, I assume we don't make that specification in the motion, do we?
No, but this is like, I'm just saying since it's a different instance, but if we don't need one, then we don't need one.
Well, to me, you've approved the sixth coach, and if there's not gonna be a motion
we'll
to
just pay
rescind
for
it,
it the way we
it's
normally
just being
do.
paid like how we
Okay.
play for any other position.
Okay, then we'll just move on to the next item. Sorry about all that. Reorganization resolutions and appointments. I don't think that there's been a lot of changes other than adding Mr. Horn to the positions that Patrick had, correct?
Correct. I mean, the state mileage reimbursement, that changes every single year, so that changed. Any personnel changes in there, mostly me, those changed. The other changes I know of, as far as the school fees, the only thing that changed was the preschool fee, but you guys had previously already addressed that, so that's just recognized in here. And then the meal fees, I did pull those out of the reorganization and put that down as a regular action item, just for further conversation, primarily because that's where we had it, where I've been in the past. So those would be the only changes. Otherwise, everything's pretty much the same. I mean, our district snow days, we obviously changed those, but real content, I mean, it's all pretty much still the same.
Any questions? I move to adopt the reorganizations, resolutions, and appointments as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor? Passes 5-0. Okay, we'll move on to new business. Item A, board goals and expectations training. I believe you guys have already talked to the trainer, correct? It's no longer Gary Sechrist.
That's correct. It's Alma Henry. She actually reached out to Trish mostly because that's who the contact was when you were going through the hiring process. It's pretty typical to go through that process when you've had change in the board and specifically the superintendent. So they just wanted to know if that's what you're wanting to do, and if so, August 14th was the recommended date.
What time?
I would suspect it's 7 o'clock. Is that what you guys would typically do?
We've done 6 o'clock in the past. Just
For those?
Just
And
to
she
kinda-
said it's about a 2-hour meeting, so.
If everybody can go that early.
Yeah, the 6 o'clock will work for everyone.
Monday,
The
Yeah.
third,
The 14th, that's a Thursday.
Thursday.
No,
I can't do Thursday. Well, yeah, that'll work.
that'll work.
Yeah.
Okay,
At,
so,
at 6
At
even,
6 o'clock?
Kevin, or, okay. No, that's too early.
yeah, let's just plan on that then. So I move that we schedule goals and expectations training with Alma Henry from KASB on 8/14/2025 at 6 o'clock PM.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Okay.
I just have to remember to call you.
Huh?
I just have to remember to call you because I'll probably be on the road still.
Okay, that works. Item B, PDC plan updates.
So the PDC plan, I kind of walked into this at the last minute as well, that Mr. Crowdis, and I'm not sure if he worked with the principals or not, but the PDC plan, our professional development plan, has been sent off to KSDE for them to review. They had a template that they're trying to get everybody sort of aligned to across the state. So working with him, they changed our PDC plan to align to that template, and this is the plan that's on there is what they are recommending you guys approve as our PDC plan. It will then, you usually do that on a 5-year rotation, but I think they're wanting to get everybody kind of transitioned to a similar model. So we will be doing this again in 2027. We're kind of in the middle of our cycle, but for some reason they wanted to get that changed. So it's KSDE's recommendation.
Any questions? I move to approve the PDC plan as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor? Passes 5-0. All right, item C, meal fees for 25-26 school year.
You should have an item in there for you to be able to look at the last few years, last 3 years, 2 years plus the projected meal fees. And meeting with Mr. Crowdis before he left and having a conversation about your guys' renewal with OPA. It was an approximately a 10% increase in your fees when you renewed with OPA for the next 5-year cycle. And then, of course, every year we'll get different meal prices from them. But based on that and based on looking at the historical values, what you guys have been charging for meal fees, the recommendation is for a 10-cent increase across the board, whether it be elementary, middle school, or even adults. When you look at the reduced prices on there, free and reduced prices, you guys don't have any, we don't have any control over those. They always stay what they are. So, and I would just remind you that when you raise meal prices like this, free and reduced are not impacted. It's only the students who don't qualify for free or reduced and or the adults. So.
Anybody have any questions or concerns about that? I move to adopt the meal fees for the 25-26 school year as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor? Passes 5-0. Okay, item D, classified substitute and certified handbook updates.
There's a document in there for your guys' review. That was the document given to me by Mr. Crowdis before he left, and there was one modification to it. If you looked at it over the weekend, you might want to look at it again. There was one item that was taken out of each section. It was the part dealing with taking leave right before or after a scheduled break.
I think that was going to be my only question. So, yeah, seeing this as it is makes sense. So I would move to approve the classified substitute certified handbook updates as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the handbooks as presented. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Item E, June 2025 policy updates.
That document, there's in there as well for you guys to look at. It's a lengthy document if you've been through this process before. It's not a small thing. The first couple of pages are usually summaries of what's in there, and then you can go in there and look at the specific changes. Depending on what they are, sometimes they have minimal impact or no impact on us. Sometimes it's just wording and clarification. Adopting the policies, the KSB policies, of course, that's put together by our attorneys at KSB. They help you to remain in compliance with state law, but not everything pertains to state law. When it comes to the policies there, I would tell you there's 3 policies in there that I actually discussed last month at Stanton County that I felt like it might be worthy of a conversation. The first one being DFE, which just deals with the investment of your idle funds. Right now, you guys, some of your funds are put into money market account where it helps earn some interest, and you're able to draw on that when Taylor needs to write checks. You guys are in compliance with the law anyway. It is something to be aware of because you do that, but is there anything that we need to change? No, there isn't. DFH deals with fundraising, and this was a policy KSB brought in last year or recommended last year, and that was based on the request by districts around the state. Some districts, there wasn't a specific fundraising policy, but their change to the fundraising policy, which I'm assuming you guys adopted last year, their change to it this year is indicating that an employee or a student would not be able to fundraise on school property at a school activity for personal gain. It sounds like maybe there's been a time or two where somebody needing something for a trip, or maybe their family needed money for something, you guys have done that. You've allowed that. Perhaps you want to probably not approve that specific policy because it sounded like in our agenda meeting that perhaps that has occurred and it's just not one of the policies you'd want to adopt. The last one deals with virtual and homeschool students participating in school activities. Essentially, what that's written into it there is it says that they'll have to be allowed to participate in ancillary activities. I don't know about here. I know we didn't have this issue at Stanton County, but there are some schools out there that they have to allow virtual school or homeschool students to participate. That passed a year ago, I believe a year ago, if not 2. But there were some schools out there were saying, well, yeah, but we don't have to allow you to participate in senior night, even though you're on the basketball team. Well, that's what they're saying. No, if they're part of the team, they get to do the activities that the team does. I don't know if that's been an issue here or not.
Not yet.
Not yet. So that's their recommendation for that policy, that if they're going to be on the team, they get to participate in all of those ancillary activities that go along with it.
I move we adopt the KSB policy updates as presented with the exception of policy DFH, which will not be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt KSB policy updates with the exception of policy DFH. All in favor? Passes 5-0.
Becky, I was going to mention to them what we discussed at the agenda meeting. We talked about not having 3 readings of the policies and just have one, if you guys are okay with that. unless we need to, discuss it
Discuss
any
it.
further.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's our job to review them anyways,
Right,
so
right.
So-
not just do it once.
Okay.
That's kind of what we thought. We get the information, you have time to look at it.
Right,
We don't need to dwell on it for time and time and
Mhm.
time again, so.
right. No,
And in
that's
the
fine.
future, items that are gonna be coming to you, you will have had that sent to you for your review.
Okay.
A couple weeks in advance at least, so.
Okay.
Alright. Item F, cardiac emergency response plan.
So this was also done before I got here. I believe you guys discussed this last month, if I remember correctly. You've already looked at it once. We actually, by law, have to have this done and approved by July 31st. So if approved by you guys, then I'll have to send it off to the state, let them look through it and make sure there's no problem with it. And then we'll get it posted to the website. Yours looks as detailed as the one we have at Stanton County, and it's in the same boat. They're approving it this month, and we'll send it off to the state. But I also know the one that we did there maybe doesn't have quite as much information as what they put in here, and it's similar to a school's that's already had theirs approved by the state. So I have no reason to believe it's not going to be approved when it goes on to the state.
I thought ours was easy to follow, so.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the cardiac emergency response plan.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the cardiac emergency response plan. All in favor? Passes 5-0. All right, item G, revenue neutral rate determination.
So the next three items have to deal with as Taylor and I prepare to get the budget done. We, by July 18th, will have to report to the county clerk whether or not you guys intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Revenue neutral rate, if you read the notes about it, it was something new about 4 years ago. The state passed the law that all schools basically have to announce their intent if they're going to raise taxes or not. Prior to that, they didn't have to make that announcement. And in reality, what happened every year anyway is when the assessed valuation went up, people's taxes went up, but a lot of people would just look at the capital outlay mills and go, well, they didn't change those, so my taxes didn't go up. Well, they did a little if the assessed valuation went up, and if the assessed valuation goes down, then their taxes went down. The only difference is now you have to put it in the paper and tell what your intent is. So we really need to know what your guys' intent is. Do you want to exceed the revenue neutral rate, which your assessed valuation has gone up? So if we keep everything the exact same, taxes will go up. Okay, the revenue, you will exceed revenue neutral rate. Probably not by a lot, but they did go up a little. So we need to know from a strategy as we're planning the budget, do you want us to keep them flat? Go ahead and stay with capital outlay where you had it and allow that to go up, and then we'll exceed revenue neutral rate, or say, no, we don't want to exceed our revenue neutral rate. We want to stay below it. And then that basically gives Taylor and I guidance on how we need to prepare the budget.
Gotta stay neutral. Nobody wants to pay more taxes.
And you're recommending that we stay, not exceed this year.
That's what I would recommend this year. And I mean, nobody wants their taxes raised, but it's hard to sustain that every single year, because that would be like you and I and everybody else getting the exact same wages and never having those go up. But yet we know costs continue to go up. So is that a strategy to do every single year? Do the same thing every year and collect the same tax revenue? I don't know if that's the case, but I believe you guys last year exceeded revenue neutral rate, so I could certainly see, and I would probably recommend that Taylor and I try to stay revenue neutral for this year.
Well, since I moved here 10 years ago, my taxes on my house have tripled, if not quadrupled. So.
I move to not exceed the revenue neutral rate when establishing the 25-26 school budget.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Okay, local option budget resolution, item H.
So we have to pass a resolution indicating what you want to set the local option budget. LOB, or also known as the supplemental general, what percent? The state average is 32.2%. Last year, you guys entered that at 32%, which was the state average. That's what I would recommend. Just keep it at the 32%. That's where you've been the last year. You've always been on state average, which what that will mean is if you do that, when we do capital outlay mills, Taylor and I will basically put the 32% in there, and then we'll just have to put the capital outlay mills where they basically go up to the revenue neutral rate, but not exceed the revenue neutral rate. So really the easiest thing is just, you did 32, that's the state average, just stay at 32 for another year.
Sounds good.
Maximum's 33%.
I move to pass a resolution establishing the local option budget at 32% for the 25-26 school year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Passes 5-0. All right, item I, capital outlay mill rate determination. The last of the three.
So this really is just, I mean, we won't know the exact number because we're going to try to stay revenue neutral. It's going to be below what it was last year. Last year was 7.5 mils. The motion you need to pass is just indicate it will not exceed 7.5, but know that it's going to come in below that when we set revenue neutral because the assessed valuation went up. So it's going to go below 7.5.
I move to set the capital outlay mills assessed to not exceed 7.5 mils for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second. Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Passes 5-0. All right, item J, baseball and softball cooperative agreement.
So I think this is something you guys had previously discussed and we're going to discuss in September, but based on a couple of conversations I had last week, I don't know that that's going to be possible to wait that long, primarily because the cooperation's been with Central Plains for baseball and softball, and they're probably not going to be able to wait that long because they really want to continue the cooperative agreement with Hoisington. I believe they've been doing that for sounds like well over 10 years, closer to 12, 14 years, depending on if it's baseball or softball. They really want to continue the cooperative agreement with us, but they do have the opportunity to do it with Ellenwood as well. Based on the numbers, and I know I presented that to you guys, I think softball is going to be around 20 to 22 girls, which is quite a few. It's enough to field a varsity team and probably play some JV games. Baseball, on the other hand, is where it gets tricky, is because I know Joel talked with both coaches and the athletic director. They would all be in support of continuing the cooperative agreement, but baseball numbers looks like they're going to be around 11. I don't know how easy it's going to be to have a baseball team with 11. True, you can play, but if you have any injuries and then with the pitch count, they will lose games off their schedule just because it's going to be hard to have 2 double headers in a week. So I just think that's going to be too challenging and harmful to the baseball program if we don't continue the cooperative agreement.
And Central Plains has indicated that they want to keep both boys and girls at the same school.
Yes, they don't want to split them up. I'm sure you probably can, but I mean, we wouldn't want to send our girls in one direction and boys in another. They don't want to split them up, especially where they have the opportunity to not have to do so. But again, they reiterated they really want to stay with Hoisington.
Is there a reason why it's a 2-year agreement and not a 1-year?
Keisha's always had.
That's Keisha?
Yeah, middle schools are always 1-year agreements. Well, they do that because of the, when they send the enrollments, especially for football, basketball, that they keep the same schedule for football, basketball, baseball. Probably that's probably why it's a 2-year agreement.
But
So
they can change our
they can change
classification
classification
every year, so.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna
And
say, will this put us back in 4A again?
This year, Tim, this Tim Boxberger, softball coach. This is the first year we bumped up 4A in how long? It's been a few years, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
We've been 3A for several
quite a
years.
while, yeah.
I remember,
The last time it happened, there was 2 divisions in 4A.
Okay, so that's,
one division. This is the first time we've done 4A when it's just been one division.
that's probably at least 8 years.
At least.
So.
and we have to vote on this tonight.
I would recommend you vote on it tonight, or you run the risk of losing Ellenwood, or losing Central Plains to Ellenwood, because they don't want Ellenwood to turn around and be looking for other options, and then they get left out.
So, as far as baseball, how many would be the ideal number for a baseball team? I mean, we're talking 11 of our own students, right?
Right,
For our own
correct.
players.
Yeah.
And if we're only adding 3 or 4 from Central Plains, I mean, is that even really going to make that much of an impact on our baseball team other than just giving us a varsity?
It will for baseball because probably 2 of those kids are pitchers. And in baseball, with the pitch count rule, having pitchers is really key. So,
But we wouldn't have enough to have a JV and a varsity. More than likely it
yeah,
would
maybe
be,
a couple
the
double
numbers
headers here and
would.
there, maybe. If we get to 15 to 16, we could probably play a couple double headers of JV, but not a full 20 game
Right.
schedule. No.
Right.
It
Because I know on the
saves those
softball
kids'
side, we're
zone.
pretty okay with
Yeah.
just our numbers, right?
Yeah, we should have, somewhere around 20, 22 at least.
But baseball program would really hurt if
Yeah.
we did not co-op.
And to answer that question, I'm guessing 18 to 20 is a better number if you're wanting to play a full JV schedule as well. That would be an ideal number to be at minimally, but we're talking being at 14, 15, 16 maybe.
I mean, I personally wish I had a little more time to think about it, but I understand the situation we're in. I mean, it is pretty kind of precarious, right? I mean, with one program not necessarily needing the numbers, but the other one being at risk because of it. And I know it's kind of they go hand in hand. So it's kind of a tricky situation, so to speak.
I think with the numbers being so low coming from Central Plains, though, it's really not as much of an impact as it would be if they were bringing 10 softball girls over, which we have had in the past, high numbers coming from Central Plains. So I just would hate to see either program suffer because of it. Thoughts on this side?
Yeah, I'm with you. I wish we could split it in 2, but I understand we can't.
Yeah.
I say keep up with it. So, anybody else have votes?
You know what my vote's
Yeah,
gonna be.
I know
so
what Sarah's stance is, and it's always been that way, so.
If we could separate it,
Yeah.
I'd be totally fine with it, but.
I move we approve a 2-year cooperative agreement with Central Plains High School to play baseball and softball.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Passes 4-0. All opposed? All right. Move on to item 9, considerations of district personnel. You guys have seen the information for the resignations and the approvals or the,
Contracts for approval.
yeah. So do you have any questions? Do you want to go back into executive session to discuss any of this? We can do that if you need some time to think about it or discuss it. But we have, 2 recommendations and 1 resignation.
I don't personally have any questions on it, but certainly if anyone wanted to discuss it, that would be fine, but I don't have anything.
I'm good.
You're good, okay. All right, so for resignations, it looks like Alan Pinka has resigned his position as assistant baseball coach. So I move to approve the resignation of Alan Pinka from assistant baseball coach.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Passes 5-0. Any questions for Joel while he's here? We good? I move to approve Jason Ingram and John Ross for assistant baseball coaches for 25-26 school year.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Passes 5-0. All right. Do we need to go into executive session for negotiations?
I don't, unless you guys do.
It's nothing really anything new, is it? From what we've discussed, I didn't think so. No, I think it's everything that we took to the table, isn't it, Sarah?
Yeah.
Anybody
Yeah, it looks like it.
have any questions or anything on it? Okay. I move to approve the negotiated agreement as agreed upon by the Teachers Association and the Board of Education.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Passes 5-0. All right, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Passes 5-0. I was like, wait a minute. All right, Mr. Horn, that was probably the fastest meeting you're